guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with a video that is going to take me a while because I'm going to go through all of the 2021 contemporary / fantasy, if there were fantasy releases, that I read this year that released in 2021. So I'm going through and discussing my thoughts and my ratings on them, and they all had to be published within the last year. I have a lot. I think I have like 60, 70. It's a lot of pages. And I have my rating next to them. They range from 2 stars to 5 stars. So I have some that are absolute favorites, some that are not. I didn't realize I had read so many 2021 releases, but I'm really excited to get to them. Before I get to the video though, I would like to thank the sponsor of this video, which is Ana Luisa Jewelry. If you guys have been following me for a while, you know I absolutely adore Ana Luisa. I wear their earrings literally every day, and I'm obsessed with their earrings, and I do love their necklaces as well. I mainly wear earrings and necklaces, so I always get those pieces from them. Ana Luisa is such a great company because they offset 100% of their carbon emissions. They have really great affordable prices of their jewelry, and they look so good together. So I have 3 piercings at the bottom of each ear, and then I do have my cartilage pierced up here. I have never changed this out though, so I always have the same earring up here, but I do switch these out all the time, and I love wearing their hoops. So I'll go ahead and show you what I'm wearing today and what I've recently received from them. I know we love a good close-up of my face, but these are the earrings I have. I wear these small hoops all the time, and I love to pair them with other hoops. These are big hoops that I got my last time I worked with them. I love these, and then I do have my moon star dangles. I also have lightning dangles that I love so much, but these are my favorites to wear. I also got the necklace that Hannah from A Clockwork Reader created, and it's really hard to show on camera, but it does have a flower on the inside. I've been wanting this necklace for so long, and it's been sold out every time, but I finally got my hands on it. Ana Luisa does collaborate with a couple of creators, so Hannah did get to design this necklace with them, and I also know that Noelle got to design a necklace with them as well, and I just loved Hannah's design so much, and I'm so excited I finally got it. But I also received 2 other pieces along with this necklace in this last time working with them, and I'm actually gifting these 2 to my mom for Christmas. My mom and my sister are Ana Luisa fangirls as well. My sister bought a couple pairs of earrings from them during their last sale. Right now they do have a sale for buy one get one 60% off, and my mom mentioned how much she loved their jewelry, so I decided to pick a couple pieces out for her, and I'm giving her these for Christmas. I know it's after Christmas right now, but I'm filming this before Christmas, so I'm giving her this gorgeous necklace. It is just a circle, and I like how simple it is because my mom does wear more simple jewelry, and so I know she's gonna really love this necklace, and she really wanted a pair of earrings. My mom was specifically looking for hoop earrings, so these do have a bunch of the gems on the side. It's really hard to show to pick up here, but they're hoops. These are also going to my mother for Christmas, so hopefully she enjoys these. Ana Luisa's earrings are honestly so comfortable, and like I said, I wear them every single day. Like, I take them out before I go to bed, I pop them back in the morning, and I wear them all day, and I love their necklaces. So make sure you check them out. They're having an amazing sale now, so maybe if you didn't get what you wanted for Christmas, want to treat yourself, or maybe you forgot to get someone a present and want to surprise them after Christmas, it's totally up to you. Check out their website, check out their amazing sale, and thank you so much to them for sponsoring this video. Alright, we're gonna jump into these books. So the first book that I read in 2021 of a 2021 release was First Comes Like by Alicia Rai. This series is not my favorite, so I hate starting this video off with this, but this one I gave 2.5 stars. It was just okay. Our heroine is a social media influencer, and she's been talking to someone, and that person's been catfishing her, so she decides to, she doesn't know it, but she decides to go and see him at this like party that she knows he's in town for. I believe he's an actor, and he doesn't recognize her, and so it's their story, and I just thought it was okay. I believe it was like a little insta-lovey to me, and I just don't love Alicia Rai's romances that much anymore. I liked her older stuff, but this series just hasn't been hitting the mark for me, so I gave this one 2.5 stars, and it's so sad that I didn't love it, but that's what I started the year off with. But then I read Act Your Age, Eve Brown, and I feel like we all know the Brown Sisters series by Talia Hibbert. This one I really loved. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars, but I rounded it up to 5 on Goodreads. I really enjoyed this one, but book 2 is still my favorite. But Jacob was just so adorable, and I really loved his character and how frustrated he would get with Eve, because Eve's such a flamboyant and fly by the seat of your pants kind of person. She just like does not need a plan for anything. She goes out and does whatever she wants, and he is absolutely the opposite. So it was a really fun opposites attract romance, and I just loved all the characters in here. This one was definitely a lot slower because it just takes place at this bed and breakfast, and it was not a lot happening, but I still really enjoyed it. I love this series dearly, and I'm excited to see what Talia Hibbert's right next, but I gave this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. I am including indie romances on this list as well, so I did read To Be Alone With You by Jodie Slaughter. I gave a very high 4 stars to. It's actually my first COVID romance, but it's not centered around COVID itself. It's the quarantining aspect. So our hero and our heroine have met before. Our heroine tried to shoot her shot with him before, and he denied her because he is older than her, and it was at a point where she was like too young to be in an age gap romance with him, and so now she's older, she's super embarrassed about what happened, but he is now into a relationship with her even though he's older because he sees her romantically now, and they end up having to quarantine together, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. This was not like a serious COVID romance. It was a more like, oh, we're stuck together and it's the forced proximity kind of romance, so I really enjoyed this one. Then I read Accidentally Engaged by Farah Roshan. This one I read for the Ravished by Romance book club I run with Lacey from Lacey Book Lovers, and I gave this one 2 stars. I just was not a fan. Our heroine sees the guy across the hall, and he is moving in there because her dad kind of set it up, and he works for her dad, and they want them to like be together, and I immediately did not like his character or how they acted around each other, and there was just like a lot in here that the author was trying to deal with that I really didn't feel like was fleshed out regarding the heroine and things in her life, and I just never really felt connected to anything that was happening in this book. I really didn't enjoy it, so this one I ended up giving 2 out of 5 stars. It was really disappointing. It was also supposed to be this like baking competition romance that didn't really flesh out the way I thought it would, because it was more like baking at home and submitting videos, and it just wasn't what it really was marketed as to me, so I just sadly was not a fan of this one. Then I read Life's Too Short by Abby Jimenez. This one is a romance, obviously, and our heroine is a travel vlogger, but she has to take care of this baby, and so she doesn't really get to travel that much, and she is not doing well taking care of the baby. I think it's her sister's, and so the hero lives next door, and he hears this happening, so he finally goes over and is like, do you need help? Like, what's going on? They end up forming a really close friendship, but our heroine thinks that she's going to have an illness that her sister and I believe her mom had, and so she's pretty much living her life with the knowledge that she has this illness, even though she's never been tested for it, she's never been diagnosed with it, so she doesn't want to form any connections with anybody. I didn't love that aspect about this romance, about how she just did not get tested, and how she was just making her decisions about this undiagnosed illness that she doesn't even know she has. And then just like her first book, the book like had all of this build up to this character having this thing, and it kind of, the ending just was not it. So that's all I want to say, and I had to give this one 3.5 stars because the author did that with book 1 too. This character was dealing with something, and then it was completely taken back for the conclusion and the ending so that they could have an HEA, and I don't like it when an author does that, and she did it in both of those books, and it just makes me annoyed. So that's why I gave it 3.5 stars. I really did love the romance though. The baby was cute, so yeah. I'm interested to see what she does next, if she's gonna write in this series more or something else, but I was not a fan of the choices the author made. Then I read Crown of Gilded Bones by Jennifer Armentrout. I forgot this book came out this year. This is book 3 in the For Blood and Ash series. I gave this one 4 stars, though it was like a really low 4, probably more like a 3 star, because this one, not a whole lot happened, and I feel like not a whole lot happens in these books and they're super long, but this one was book 3 to the series, and I believe this one we got what I wanted from book 2, but there was still a lot that I wanted to happen that didn't happen. So book 2 like did not give me anything I wanted, and it was all gonna be in book 3. Book 2 was like a bridge book, but this one they spent so much time like going to do something and built it up, and then it happened in like 2 seconds and was over, and I was like, why do we have all this build up for them to just get there and leave? And I just didn't like that. It was more like the process and not the actual end goal for anything that they did in this book, so I gave it more like 3.5 stars. I had higher expectations for this one, and we did not get, what is it called, like the joining or something that they've been hinting at for 3 books, and I'm very annoyed because I want it and we still haven't gotten it. Then I read Black Sunshine by Karina Halley. This one's a vampire romance, and unfortunately I just didn't love it. Our heroine is, I think, like from vampires but doesn't know it, and is being raised by vampire hunters, and then figures out she's a vampire, and there was just too much happening in here, and I didn't really love the romance, so this one I gave 2 stars as well. I feel like all of these I did not love. a good majority of the beginning books that I read this year, and I have more negative things to say, but I just had super high hopes for this, and just like the way it was executed didn't really mesh well for me, and I just didn't love it. It was pretty violent, which I didn't mind, but not like dark, if that makes sense. There was violence, but I didn't feel like it was that dark of a romance, so it was just okay for me, but I gave it 2 stars. I was disappointed, and I'm not going to continue on in the series. I'm going to try to get through these faster. Next, I read The Dating Plan by Sarah Desai. This one, I have to look up my review for it because I have like 70 books to share with you, and it's hard to remember what each of them are about. I did give this one 3.5 stars, and this one, he stood her up to prom, and I remember this one, I think they ran into each other at a tech conference, so she needs someone to be her decoy fiance, so I remember that, and I remember, like, they didn't even address the fact that he stood her up until like 60% into the book, and I was like, why didn't you ask him as soon as you saw him, hey, what the heck happened when we were younger, because that like really broke my heart. That did not happen, and I was so annoyed with our characters for not confronting this, and I believe she like made out with him at a work conference, and I just feel like that's a little weird as someone who works in a professional setting. I mean, I'm a teacher, but like there are things you do and don't do in a professional setting, and I felt like that was a little weird, but I did give it 3.5 stars. I was just like really annoyed. I was like, when is she gonna figure out what the heck happened when he stood her up? Like, I would never get over that. I'm someone who holds grudges. I'm like, I need to know why you did that, and you need to grovel, and then I'm gonna forgive you. But yeah, that's how I felt about this book. Then I read The Float Plan by Trish Dollar, and this one is a heavy book. Like, it starts off with our heroine losing her either fiance or husband to suicide, and this book doesn't look like that. This looks like a happy-go-lucky book, and so our heroine is absolutely devastated and goes on this like sailing adventure on her own, and she ends up hiring a guy to help her, and it's her romance with that guy. But there are so many moments where I'm like, you literally could have died, and that is terrifying, and she puts her life into danger so many times. The romance was definitely second plot line to her grieving and her taking this sailing trip, and so I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It was definitely women's fiction. The cover is not what it should be because this looks like a happy-go-lucky rom-com, and it is absolutely not, and so this one was just okay to me. I gave it 3 stars, and I enjoyed the romance, but it was not marketed to what it should have been. Then I read Ever After Always by Chloe Leese. This one, her titles are always the same, and I need to figure out which one's which because I can never remember which one's which. This is the third one. This one I absolutely loved. It's a marriage and trouble romance, and they actually go to counseling together. We see so much of the family involved, and they are dealing with infertility, so know that going in, but I really loved seeing them try to have to communicate with one another. He is definitely like super welcomed into her family, and I love that they went on a family vacation together, but then they're still working through their problems, and they end up going to counseling together, which I love, so I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. I love Chloe Leese. I did read the 4th book too, which I'll talk about later, but this one and book 2 are definitely my favorites of the series. Then I read Dial A for Aunties. This one, you guys know how I feel about this if you've been watching my channel. I absolutely love this one. It's definitely not as romance heavy as other books in this video, but the aunts in this book just stole the show for me. Our heroine goes on a blind date that her mother set up, which was totally hilarious how it was set up in the first place. Her mom got on dating apps for her and talked to people, and our heroine accidentally kills her date, and so she rushes home and is like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, and her aunts help her like cover it up, but they all work in the wedding business together, and so they all have like different roles for their company, and they're trying to work this wedding, and they like drag the dead body around with them, and it ends up that her ex from college is working at the hotel I think that the wedding's at, so they have to work together, and it's their romance, and I'm so excited for the second book in this series. It was just so funny. I laughed out loud so many times in this book, and the romance was so cute, and it's definitely more so the plot of her trying to figure out what to do with this dead body than the romance, but I love this so much. 5 out of 5 stars. I was so surprised how much I love this, but I really did. Then I read People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. This one is the one I believe that won the Goodreads Choice Awards this year. I gave it 4 stars. It's a second chance romance. I didn't love how much we had flashbacks between the past when they were in college to the present. Our heroine gets to travel all the time for her job and usually took her best friend with her, but something happened that blew up in their faces, and now they're back together on vacation, but they haven't talked about it, and it's something where that we don't know what happened to them until like 70% into the book, and it felt so anticlimactic and lackluster to me that I was like, that's what broke you guys up apart That's so disappointing. It wasn't anything really shocking, and there's a lot of miscommunication in here. They just won't sit down and talk to each other multiple times in here. So I gave it 4 stars. It was still a really cute romance, but not my favorite like everyone else says it is theirs of the year. The next one I read is The X Talk, and this one is a radio show romance, and they have to fake be exes. So the heroines worked for this radio show for a while. The heroes knew, and they automatically already treat him as better than her, especially because he's a man. And she is trying to save like her job, and she wants like a new radio show, so they propose to be exes because they banter all the time and she really hates him, and they just like argue all the time. So then they lie and pretend to be exes but have to spend time together to try to like act like they know about each other to be exes, and they fall for each other. I really enjoy this one. I think I gave it 4.5 stars and rounded up to 5. It was such a good romance, and she was actually older than him, which I appreciated, and it was fun to see like the radio industry. So this one was a really fun romance that I really enjoyed. Then we have The Intimacy Experiment. This one is book 2 after The Roommate. I read The Roommate last year. I didn't love it. Our heroine was, I believe, in the porn industry, but now she works with like talks about sex and like educating people, and this rabbi hires her because he is new to the synagogue and he wants to entice younger people to come to church, and so they end up falling for each other, but it's definitely taboo because he can't be dating someone like her and be taken seriously by the people in his profession, but they start liking each other. I enjoy this one. I gave it 4 to 5 stars. I definitely enjoyed it much more than the first book, and I liked how we got to see like her sessions with the people at the synagogue, like giving her classes and her trying to be taken seriously as a professional. I thought it was a lot of fun, so I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Twice Shy by Sarah Hoggle. This one is her second book. I read her first book last year. I did not like it. This one is so cute because I loved our hero so much. They both inherit this house, and I believe it's her relative, but he was close with her, and it's like crumbling and falling apart, so they have to fix it together. It was adorable. I really loved him and his character so much. I think that the first half wasn't as good, but once he kind of opened up to her and they started talking and enjoying each other's company, it was the cutest thing ever. He does have anxiety, and I loved how he opened up to her, but the first like half of the book kind of dragged for me, so I did give this 4 to 5 stars, but he stole the show. It was so cute. Even if the beginning drags, please stick with it and finish this book. Then I read Tristix Venom by Penelope Douglas. This is a high school sapphic bully romance, and I really enjoyed reading this. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars, but beware that it is a really bad bully romance. Like, they tear each other apart, they really poke at each other's weaknesses, but I really enjoyed watching them have to confront their feelings for one another, especially because one character is adamant that she is not gay and she's trying to like have a relationship with someone else, though she is extremely attracted to the other girl, and it's like social class difference because one comes from the wrong side of town, the other one's very wealthy. But I really loved Penelope Douglas's first sapphic romance, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, but it is a bully romance, so if you don't like those, don't pick this up. Then I read Worship by Jack Harbin. This one was a really fun novella about these two people going to their high school reunion. She was the it girl in high school. He was, nobody noticed him, and he ends up saving her in this situation at their reunion, and it's just their steamy relationship together, and I thought it was a lot of fun, so I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed their dynamics together and how they fell for each other, and he basically worshipped her. Like, that is why it's called Worship. He is so into her, and I really like this one. Then I read One Hero's Fall by Gianna Darling. This one is the first book in a duet, and it is a mafia romance. She is a lawyer, he is part of the mafia, he's on trial, and she's his lawyer, and I really love the Grump Sunshine dynamic between them because she is so cold-hearted and really not into love because she was burned in the past by her sister who stole her fiance from her, and so she is not into love whatsoever. He is definitely more the sunshine. He loves people, he loves having them around, and I really like their dynamics together and how she had to stay at his place because he is on house arrest and he like demands she stays with him, so he gets updates for the case. I really enjoyed this one. I give it 5 stars. Just such a good duet from Gianna Darling. Then I read Sweethand, which is a really fun island romance where it has to do with weddings. Their friends are getting married and she is a baker, and he is like big on social media. I don't remember what he does, if it's like the music industry or something, but he definitely makes a jab at her on social media and makes her really mad, and it's their romance, but they have a lot of forced proximity because of this wedding. playing, and I really enjoyed it. I love the setting. I love the wedding aspect of this. I really just love wedding romances and how it was hate to love, and he had to grovel a bit and make up to her because he says things that he doesn't mean to be taken as mean, but she gets offended and he has to really rethink what he says to her. And I thought this was a really great, unique romance, so I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. And I love the bakery aspect because she does own a bakery and a baking business, and I always love romances like that. I'm not even halfway done, so I'm gonna try to like pick it up a little bit. Real is the next book I read. I love this one, you guys. This one is a like actor and director romance. He hires her, but he's been burned in the past by having a relationship with an actress, so it is like forbidden. He's like, no way are we gonna have anything going on. She is dealing with a chronic illness as well. It is amazing. I absolutely love this one. I heard the audiobook is great because there's also songs, I believe, because she plays a famous singer in the movie, but they're just forbidden romance. It's just the cutest because he is adamant he doesn't want anything to happen between them, but it does, and her chronic illness definitely comes into play, and I love how that was a part of the story. This one is just amazing. Just another hit from Kennedy Ryan. She will always be a 5-star author for me. Then I read Heart and Soul by Jen Frederick, and this one I gave 2 stars. It was not a romance whatsoever. Our heroine figures out that she's adopted, I believe, and has to go to Korea to figure out her roots, and there was like not a lot of romance, and I'm pretty sure like she believed that they were related at one point, and it was just not good. And I listened to it to finish it, but I was not engaged in the story whatsoever. I just like did not care about the heroine and the choices she made. She was very selfish in here, and I really didn't like how selfish she was and how she didn't really care about anybody else. I didn't care about her journey whatsoever. It was like marketed specifically as a romance. I remember there was a quote on the cover saying it was like a fun rom-com, and it's not. There's barely any romance in here. It's not funny at all, and so I give this 2 stars. Mostly because of the marketing, and I wouldn't have picked it up if I knew what this book was actually about. Then I read How to Find a Princess by Alyssa Cole, and this one again is another disappointment. This is another 2-star read. I just did not care about this romance. Our heroine is like a runaway princess, and the other one is hired to find her, and it is a sapphic romance, and I didn't care. And there was a lot of it that was on this like barge where they were trying to travel somewhere together, and it was so boring. Like nothing happened in here. I didn't love the ending either and the twist that it took, so Alyssa Cole's contemporaries I'm really not loving. I love her historicals, but I think I'm gonna give up on her contemporaries that she comes out with now. Then I read When Villains Rise by Gianna Darling. This is book 2 to the duet. I gave it 5 stars. A lot more action packed in this one. I really loved it. Not much more I can add because I've already given you the synopsis of book 1, but definitely check out this duet if you want a good mafia duet. Then I read Diver's Heart, which I did not know was a 2021 release. This one I was so excited for because it is like a cave diving reverse harem romance. It's also second chance. Like they were together in the past. Well, not like together, but like they all really liked her and she was dating one of them, and then she broke his heart and left, and now she's back because she's like the best of the best cave divers, and they are too, and they're gonna go explore this cave together. And it's reverse harem, but like there's something really dark and creepy in the cave. And this one was like good, but like so unrealistic. They would be literally in the process of being killed, have a moment, decide to get together, and then like again try to survive, and I was like, what is happening? And then the ending went on for way too long afterwards. Like there was like all this suspense, it was all taking place in this cave, and then there was still so much of the book afterwards, and I'm like, I'm done with the story. I don't care about all this afterward stuff, so I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It had potential, it was a lot of fun, but it just needed to work on a couple of things. Then I read Neon Gods by Katie Robert. This one I gave 3.5 stars. I just really was excited for this, but our heroine is Persephone, and she's running away because Zeus wants to marry her. Like her mom set up this kind of arrangement. She's like, no way, so she crosses the river and ends up being with Hades, and they fake date kind of thing at his club where like things happen. It was definitely steamy, I will say that, and I really loved Hades' character and how kind of misunderstood he was and how sweet he was and caring he was, but there was this like big sense of urgency from her trying to run away from Zeus, and I feel like we didn't get that urgency at all in this book, and there wasn't a lot of like world building that I thought there kind of needed to be. It just felt like kind of flat to me, and so I gave it 3.5 stars. I wanted a lot more from it, and it just didn't give me what I wanted in this romance, if that makes sense. It's kind of hard to explain, but this one, it was just okay. I know a lot of people love this one, but it was a 3.5 for me. Okay, we're done with the first page. We still have another page and a half to go. So the next one I read was The Dating Dare, and this one, I believe they like hate each other, but then they dare each other to date each other because he's leaving soon, so then they start dating, and it was just okay to me. Another average romance, and of course they start falling for each other, and then there's this looming like expiration date because he's leaving, and I'm like, well, obviously that's gonna be a problem. And so nothing was really special about this one, so I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Then I read Her Soul to Take by Harley LaRoe, I think is how you say that last name. I always say LaRue, but I'm pretty sure it's LaRoe. This one was so good. It's a demon romance. She is a YouTuber and she likes to do like summon demons, and so she tries to summon this one demon, ends up summoning him, and he is unfortunately connected though to bad people in town, and he's falling for her, and he's supposed to take her to sacrifice her, but falls for her instead, and it's so good. I really like this, and I'm excited to read book 2. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read The Road Trip by Beth O'Leary, and this one was a 3-star read for me. Beth O'Leary is just definitely a women's fiction author that is constantly marketed as romance, and this one again is supposed to be this like nice, fun, happy cover, and it was so serious, and it was a road trip romance. They had broken up in the past, and now they're going to a wedding in Scotland together, and it was just like not funny, and it was supposed to be funny, but I didn't find it funny whatsoever. There's a lot of antics with the friends, and they like lose one of their friends and like randomly find them, and there was just too much happening, and I was like, how does this logically even work? And it was definitely very, very serious. I didn't love the flashbacks of when they fell for each other. It was just like an odd romance that they had, and so and there's definitely heavily trigger warnings for sexual assault because it happened to her in the past. I just didn't love this, so I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Then I read Forbidden by Carlos Renz. I didn't realize this one was a 2021 release, but I love this. I won't stop talking about it. This one, she works at a gym, and she has really loved this one fighter. She grew up really liking him. She had posters around her room of him. He now owns the gym, and he is a single father raising his daughter, and it's their romance. It's age gap. It is forbidden because it's a workplace romance. He doesn't want to get involved with anybody because he's a single dad, but she takes care of her nephew a lot and really bonds with his daughter, and it is so good. If you like the kind of vibes that Culty has, where she grew up with a crush on him and then is now like falling for him, and it's a romance, read this one. Then I read The Savage and the Swan, which is a fantasy romance. I gave this one 2 stars. I can barely remember anything about the plot. I just remember not caring, being very confused about where the story was going, what was happening, and the cover was gorgeous, but there was just so many plot holes and nothing was really connected. It was so hard to follow. The world building was not good, so 2 out of 5 stars for this one. Then I read It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey, and this one I gave 3 out of 5 stars. This one started out okay enough, though I really didn't care about our heroine. She is like a socialite who's getting in trouble, so they like ship her off somewhere to get her act together. I just didn't like her. She's like, what is my point in life? I'm just so rich and fabulous. And I'm just like, really? She's like always on social media. She broke into a hotel to throw a party, and that's when she got in trouble, and I'm like, I don't care about you. But she and her sister are shipped off to this bar that her dad owned, and they're like making it over. I feel like our hero was way too good for her. He's a fisherman, and I loved him so much, and it was kind of hate because he did lose his wife in the past, and he doesn't want to date anybody. But that was over way too quickly, and it was very insta-love. Like, they were together by halfway through the book, and I was like, well, what is the point of the rest of this book? The conflict at the end was so predictable, and I didn't love it, so it took me forever to finish this because I was so done with the story, like, halfway through. I was like, okay, they're together. Like, what's the point of the rest of this book? So I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Then I read Twisted Love by Anna Huang, which I believe came out this year, and this one was just okay to me. I was expecting a lot more. It's a brother's best friend. He ends up agreeing to, like, watch over her, and it was okay. She was annoying, though. Like, there was this weird game where she was trying to like make him laugh or something. I don't even remember what she was trying to do, but she felt so immature, and I didn't really love her character, and it was just okay. I wasn't like bought into this romance, so I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. But then I read Twisted Games, which is the second book in the series, and I like this a lot more. It reminded me a lot of The Princess Diaries 2, and she is a princess and he's her bodyguard, and this actually like spans a couple of years, which I didn't know, and then she has to try to like find someone to marry because it has to do with the monarchy and like things that happen with her. I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I definitely enjoyed it much more than book 1. Then I read Don't Kiss the Bride by Carrie Ann Cole. This one is an age gap romance, and it was perfection to me. It's definitely slow burn, friends to lovers, and I know some people don't love this one. They think like the romance wasn't really developed that well. I loved it though so much. I definitely felt that slow burn romance, especially because she is 18 and he is, I think, like 30, and they get married because she has an eating disorder and needs insurance, and she comes from a really bad family, and so she marries him for his insurance, and he really cares rumors about her. They're definitely friends first, and I just love this. I love this so much, and I just want to reread it already. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Uncharted by Adriana Anders. I was so excited for this one. It's an Alaskan survival romance, but I gave it 3 stars. It was boring to me, and I feel like it was very insta-love. Like, it takes place over only a couple days, and they're already like madly in love, and they barely even talk to each other. I did not get this romance. I just loved the first book so much that this one was quite a letdown, and it was not as engaging and fun as the first one in like life or death kind of thing. It was just like they were running from someone the whole time, and it was pretty boring. So I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Then I read Games We Play, which is a novella, and it was a lot of fun. Our heroine's a reporter, and he is this famous like gamer who has like a very distinct voice. I guess he's like inspired by something, I don't know. But she ends up going over to his house and interviewing him, and they have a steamy relationship, and I thought it was a lot of fun. I do think it was weird. We had random points of views of his friends, like super randomly near the end, and I was like very jarred. I was like, this is what? Why are we getting his point of view? So I could have done without that, but I did enjoy how short and fun this was, so I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Continuum by Danielle Allen. This one was just okay. Our heroine loses someone in the beginning, and I believe it's a second chance romance, so she runs into this guy that she kind of had a mischance with in college, and it's just one night together, and that's really the whole story. And I don't love books that take place over just like 1 or 2 days, and so I was kind of bored with this romance. It was definitely just very sweet, and I was like, no urgency or angst in here. It was just a very sweet romance, which I'm not super into, so I give this one 3 out of 5 stars. I just wanted a little bit more like something to happen with the plot and the romance. Then I read Find Me, which is a really fun reverse harem romance. Our heroine's entire family was murdered by her stalker, and so she's living with her uncle now, and she's living alone because her uncle's like off trying to, I think, like find her stalker, and there's a bunch of brothers who live next door, and it is her romance with them, and I really enjoyed this first book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I did want, I think, a little bit more from the characters, and that's why I gave it 4 stars, but she is just terrified that like she's gonna be murdered any second, and I really like that, and I'm interested to see where the plot goes after this first book, because there was definitely a cliffhanger at the end. Then I read With You Forever, which is the 4th book for Chloe Leese. This one I thought was okay. I think I gave this one 4 stars. This one is the one brother story, and it is a friends to lovers romance, and the family was really funny, like did a lot to try to get them to be together, but I was kind of bored by the romance. She ends up having to stay with him because I think she's supposed to stay at their house, but he's like secretly renovating the family's house, and so she ends up staying with him, and it was just okay. It was a friends to lovers, which isn't always my favorite because it needs to be a little bit more engaging and interesting than just like we're friends falling in love, but there wasn't a lot of angst to it. It was just like okay, and I wanted a little bit more from the plot. I do think too the plot was pretty slow, which if it's friends to lovers with a slow plot, I feel like it's a really slow going romance, so I give this one 4 stars. I still really enjoyed it, but not as much as the rest of the books in the series. Then I read Make It Sweet by Kristen Callahan. This one, he is a professional hockey player, but he gets injured and he's not going to play anymore, and he's at this B&B kind of hotel thing, I think, and she is an actress and she gets killed off, and so she doesn't know what she wants to do next, and so she goes to that B&B too. They meet each other. It was pretty slow. I did not love this. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I definitely wanted a lot more from the plot, and our hero makes a really annoying decision that was against everything we learned about him for the entirety of the book, and I didn't love it. And I feel like the heroine was very passive when it came to that decision and should have definitely stood her ground more, so I gave this one 3 stars. I was pretty disappointed in this one. I just moved slow. My foot fell asleep and it's really hurting right now. But the next one I read was A Lady of Rooksgrave Manor by Catherine Moon. This one is the Hello Lovely special edition, which is gorgeous. I love this one. It was a reverse harem monster romance. Our heroine works at this place of pleasure, and she has a lot of men who love her, and they are like all adamantly in love with her, and I loved how well they got along with one another, and it was just so good. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be a story about the circus that they went to and saw, and I'm so excited for that. This one, it was just so good. I loved everything about it. I loved the characters. I loved the villain in here too, and there was actually like a really good plot to it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read The Dating Playbook by Farah Roshan. This one, it was so good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Our heroine's a personal trainer. Our hero had an injury and he's trying to get back into the NFL, and he decides to hire her to help him, and she is really trying to get her business off the ground because she doesn't have a degree, and so she feels inadequate and like she will never have the chance to be successful because she doesn't have a degree. She didn't go to college. They work out together, and it's kind of forbidden because she wants to be taken seriously, but she's falling for him, but she doesn't want to be known as a female trainer who like sleeps around around, and it was just really fun and really good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed their dynamics and working out together, and her trying to figure out how she can be successful in this line of business that she's working in, and how he is trying to grapple with his future and whether he can really recover or not from this injury. It was fun. I really enjoyed it. I love a good trainer, working out, professional athlete romance, so I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. This one I gave 5 out of 5 stars. You guys know I love this one so much. It's fake dating, it's academia. I will say they act a little inappropriately in public, because at one point they're at a conference and she like sits in his lap for the entirety of the speaker, and I'm like, this is a professional setting, let's be a little bit more professional. But they were adorable. I loved Adam's character and how misunderstood he was, and how the more she got to know him, she became protective of him and got him out of his shell. And there are trigger warnings in here for sexual assault though. She is definitely taken advantage of and assaulted in this book by people in the academia world, so make sure you know that going in. But I love this. I loved everything about it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read The Witch's Wolves, which is a novella that is a Little Red Riding Hood kind of retelling, and she falls in love with 2 werewolves, and it was alright. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I feel like there's nothing super special about this, but it was a fun time. I read it around October, and I just enjoyed it for what it was, so I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Then I read Dangerous Temptation by Gianna Darling. This one is a Guardian Ward romance, and this has Bad Dream in it as well, which is the novella before that. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed our heroine. She was raising her younger brother who has epilepsy, and they have a mom, but then she passed away, and so they end up having to move in with their mom's boyfriend, who was only dating her for a specific reason, and now he's getting close to them for a specific reason. There's a lot of things to do with their family and like rival families, and he definitely is damaged himself in his relationship with his family. I really enjoyed this one. I liked how close she got to the people who worked in his house too, and her brother's role in it. It was just a really great romance from Gianna Darling, and I'm definitely waiting for book 2, because this is a duet and I need to find out what happens next. Then I read There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark. This is a serial killer romance. I've talked about this all the time, and I absolutely love this. 5 out of 5 stars. It is so good, and I read book 2, and I'll talk about that in a second. I'm a little disappointed. She is taken by a serial killer and left for dead. He's another serial killer and finds her, and it's their romance. It's definitely twisted. They really play games with each other to antagonize each other, but it is so amazing. If you want a twisted serial killer romance, read this book. Then I read Hunger by Nicole Falls, and this one is another like athletic trainer and trainee romance, and it is a novella, and it was alright to me. Our hero is training her, and she wants to feel healthy, which I really love. I'll talk about another one that I read too of that aspect, where they're not training to lose weight, they're training to feel healthy, and I really like that viewpoint in these romances. But it was a lot of the hero liking her, but not like making a move, and then he's invited to her birthday party, and I feel like it fizzled out near the end, so I give this one 3 out of 5 stars. I really wanted to love it, but it just ended a little bit flat for me, and I wasn't as invested in their romance. Then I read Seventh Circle by Tate James, and this one was really interesting. It's gonna be a reverse harem, but it didn't really flesh out as a reverse harem in the beginning, but our heroine pretty much like runs this like crime group. I don't know if it's like part of the mafia or something. She has like a very distinct relationship with these different men, which I appreciated. If it's a reverse harem, I really want to see them individually and tell them apart, and I feel like this did it really well. She has very distinct relationships with each guy, but nothing is like culminated yet for them to have a reverse harem, so I think that's gonna happen later on. But she's definitely someone who can take care of herself, which I loved about her character. Oh, and I remember she is helping raise her younger sister, and there is this one romance in there that I'm so into, and I love her relationship with that guy, but I wanted more to happen with the romances, so that's why I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, but a very high 4 out of 5 stars. I'm really excited to see what happens next, because it definitely ended on a cliffhanger. Then I read Claimed by J.R. Ward, which I've talked about plenty of times. I give this one 2 stars. It's just not good. It is a werewolf romance. Werewolves didn't come in until the very end though, and I was really annoyed that nothing was hinted that that was a werewolf, and I was very disappointed with that reveal. It was very insta-love. I really didn't care about the characters, so I gave this one 2 out of 5 stars. Then I read Gothichana by Runix, and I really enjoyed this one. It was so atmospheric and definitely a really good Halloween romance. Our heroine is going to this school, and it is a very prestigious, very mysterious school. Lots of deaths have happened there, and she falls for a professor who has a very shady past as well, and there is definitely a lot of death and intrigue and suspense in here, but a lot of loose ends that are not explained, so that's why I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I'm assuming there would be another book, but there's like no promise of another book, so there was a lot that was not just finished, and I'm very interested interested to know like if we're gonna get answers to those things or not, but I really like the romance in here, and it's definitely forbidden because he is a professor, but he's really young. There's only like a 3 or 4 year age gap between him and the heroine because she is a lot older in college, but I really like this book. Then I read Booed Up by Danielle Allen. This is another Halloween novella, and this one, our heroine is home from college and goes to a couple parties and meets this guy that her friends want her to be with, and there's like weird Ouija stuff happening, and her and the guy end up going home and spending the night together. It was a lot of fun. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I really like their romance and the development of their romance, and the kind of creepy thing explanation at the end was really fun. If you want a good Halloween novella, pick this one up. Then I read The Heart Principle by Helen Huang. I love this one. This one is definitely more women's fiction for the second half, but the first half, it is so much romance, and I was obsessed. I loved how sweet and caring and kind and calm and just patient Kwan was with our heroine, and she's dealing with so much. She is on the autism spectrum, and she can never say no to anybody, and her father ends up having a really bad illness happen where she ends up being his caretaker, and it is taking such an emotional toll on her, but that happens for the second half. So this one kind of drops the romance and heavily focuses on her family and that aspect of her life, and I just love this one. I loved it so much. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, but I can see why people didn't love it because it's not the happy-go-lucky rom-com that the cover shows, but I appreciated it and everything that had to deal with, and I just hated her family, but I loved how they wasn't all wrapped up in a nice little bow in the end. Like, there were consequences to how her family treated her, and I appreciated that. I love this one. I'm almost done. Okay, I read The Holiday Swap. This is a Christmas romance. It's twins. They swap lives. I love this. I give it 5 out of 5 stars. It's exactly what I wanted in a Christmas romance. Definitely sweet. There's not a lot of steam to it, but it was just so good. And they like actually messed up things in each other's lives, which I appreciated it to be a little messy. And I love their individual romances. I love this one. Then I read Duke Actually, which I gave 3 stars. This one is another Christmas romance. It's book 2, but it's marketed as a standalone, and it should not be read as a standalone. There's a lot of history between their friends, and their friends get married, and I feel like I was missing a lot, and it was slow. It was a friends to lovers, and it was way too drawn out. It was very slow, and I was just like over it by halfway through, and it took me forever to read, so I give it 3 out of 5 stars. Then I read A Holly Jolly Divali, and this one is our heroine loses her job, and she is not dating anybody. She decides to go to India for her friend's wedding, meets a guy, very insta-love. Like, they were super into each other. She was ready to give up her entire life for him, and they had known each other for like a few days. And so I gave this one 3 stars. It was just okay. It was a pretty slow plot with a very insta-love romance, which I didn't love, so I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I guess I didn't talk about this one. I also read The Royals Next Door by Karina Halley. I didn't write this one down, but this one is a bodyguard romance with our heroine who lives next to these royals. So they're royals that move in next door, and this bodyguard is super protective of them, and it always like thinks that she is breaking the rules and someone's suspicious, and it's their romance. She's a teacher, and she's taking care of her mother. I really love this one. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Their romance was so adorable, and I loved how they lived next to each other, and he was constantly around and then making excuses to see her. It was so cute. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Such a unique romance that I really haven't read before, and I really enjoyed it. Then I read The Fastest Way to Fall, and this one is another trainee romance. She's actually a reporter, and she signs up for this app to have a trainer, and they start talking to each other and really falling for each other, and then they meet in real life, and it is so good. I really enjoy this one. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I love their dynamics and her trying to get this job because of this project she's working on. Like, she wants to do well so she can get promoted, and then our hero is also running his company, but he doesn't love being the one running it. He's dealing with an ex, and she's trying to date as well, but they're kind of friends, and they talk to each other a lot, but they're supposed to be professionals, and it was just so good. I really enjoyed this. I love this author so much, and I'm excited to have read another great book by her. And again, she was joining the app to be healthy and really feel confident about herself, not to lose weight, and I love that about this book. And the last one I read is Isn't It Romantic by Lyssa Kay Adams. I just read this one, and I give it 3 out of 5 stars. It's the Russian story. It's a marriage in trouble, but they're really friends and got married as a marriage of convenience, and now they haven't really talked to each other, but he gets injured, so she has to help him, and it was just too cheesy for me and over the top, just like the Russian's character has been. Like, there's this cheese cheese man that they have to visit, and it's so over the top, and I'm just like, this is kind of ridiculous at this point. And it was very drawn out, and then there's this whole other mystery plot at the end, so it was trying to do a lot, and it wasn't bad by any means, but it definitely was not my favorite. Like, book 1 is still so good in this series, and the rest of the books have just been okay to me. So I wasn't impressed with this one. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. And those are all the books I have to share with you. That was way too long. I'm so sorry for how long this video was, but let me know what 2021 releases you've read this year and that you've liked. Also, a huge shout out to Ana Luisa for sponsoring this video. Make sure you check out their jewelry in the link down below. Check out their sale, and that's all I have. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a good day. Bye.